everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgy, your guide to all things geeky, and this, once again, is the Random Recommendation Show, the show in which I come in and very quickly tell you guys all about something out there in the world of geekery, whether it be comic books, video games, or movies, that you might not have heard, or just something that I'm really enjoying and just really want to talk about at the moment. And today we're talking about comics again. I have been reading a book from Boom Studios that I have just been adoring. There is no other word for it. I have been adoring this series, and the first trade for it just came out. So what better time to talk about? I'm here to tell you all about Giant Days. Now, this is a new series from John Allison, the same guy who created the webcomic Bad Machinery, and I will go ahead and warn you guys right now, this thing is British as hell. Like, I had to stop a few times, and I am not ashamed to admit I had to look up a couple of the things that they were talking about because I had no idea what some of the things were that they were referring to, because they do use some British terms or British slang that I didn't quite understand. However, the sense of humor in this book is universal. This is a story all about three girls who move off to college and they're all living in one dorm together, and this is a guy who came from the world of webcomics, and you can tell because when I first read this, I liked it, I laughed at the jokes, I loved the characters, I loved the art, but there was just something odd about it that I didn't quite get. And that's when I realized it was the pacing of it. I was reading this like it was a regular comic book, like one whole story all the way throughout, things flow from one page to the next. But then I went back and I read it like it was a webcomic, in which I was reading it like every single page was meant to be a one-day update, and I was just going through them all at once. And when I read it like that, I love this thing. It was great. This is one of the best webcomics I have read in a long time that isn't a webcomic. If you were a fan of web series such as Dumbing of Age or Questionable Content, but wish that was a little bit more realistic and down to earth, then yeah, this series is excellent. This is exactly what you're waiting for. This series, in a weird way, it's almost like a more realistic version of The Simpsons. Like, that sense of humor there and that wit is still very much present there. It reminded me very much of all those great Simpsons episodes that I love so much, except you read it and it's like, yeah, I can see all these things happen. Like, everybody is kind of a cartoon. Everybody is super exaggerated, but not so much so that you can't look at it and go, well, that wouldn't happen in reality. No, I have known people like the people in here. Just they weren't as witty and didn't make as good jokes as them. Now, one thing that we'll just go ahead and warn you guys about this is that if you were coming to this thing looking for a big overarching story, then you're not going to find it. The closest thing that you can find to an overarching story is the relationship between one of the characters, Susan, and her longtime friend slash love interest, McGraw. And McGraw, by the way, is one of my favorite characters of any comic in 2015. That guy is the young Ron Swanson. That is entirely what he is. There is a moment in which he is lost in the city and they're trying to find him, and they go, how are we gonna find him? I know, we'll go wherever they make keys. And they find him at a key shop arguing with the guy about the proper way to make keys, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy is so good. But yes, as I was saying, there isn't any really big overarching story, but it is a lot of fun. This is one of those series that as you read it, it's not the story that's going to get you invested, it is the characters. I started reading this and, like I said, I had to train myself to read this as if it was a webcomic, and after I did that I was like, okay, I can enjoy this, and every issue I enjoyed it a little bit more, simply because with every single issue, I really just started to fall in love with these characters. Every single one of these characters is so likable and so charming. They're not perfect people, they're heavily flawed, but that's what makes them likable. And they're each witty, but witty in their own way, so they're all each very different from one another. And eventually you get to that point which is like, oh, I can't wait to see what this character's gonna do next, because you know them at that point. You really get attached to them. This has done that with characters better than I have seen in almost any comic out there this year. So yeah, I'm giving this one of my highest recommendations. The first trade for it just came out. It's the first 4 issues for only $10. That is actually a really good deal. So I highly recommend everybody picking that up. In fact, I will leave a link in the comments down below to where you can find it on both Comixology and Amazon. So if you guys want to check it out, just follow those links down below, or go to your local comic book store and order it from them. So I thank you guys for checking out another episode of the Random Recommendation Show. If you want to see more stuff from me about the world of geekery, whether it be comic books, movies, video games, anything like that, hit that subscribe button right over there. I changed the side, I put it on every single week, but I don't care. I like to keep you guys on your toes. And you can also follow me on Twitter and Tumblr. The address is right there, at Professor Thorgy. Thank you very much, and click on the videos at the end of this to see some other things I've recommended, and make sure to share this video if you enjoy it. I don't ask you guys to do that often, but I kind of like this episode, so go ahead, share it with the world, and also share it so other people will check out Giant Days. Thank you guys, see you next time.